my first guest today is going to be Christophe Choo. Chris, for those of you that don't know Christophe, you're going to get quite a treat. Christophe and I have actually known each other probably 30 plus years.
I don't need it now.
Yeah,
So,
Neil, I think we're about 30 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Hard to believe.
Very cool. Yeah, we met when Mike Ferry was working with the John Douglas Company.
Yeah.
And you were fairly new with them, or you'd been with them a while. I wasn't sure about that.
I was probably, I started 18, so I was probably 22 or 23 years old when I first.
You were really old.
Yeah. And then I started coaching, and then I met you at the first Superstar Retreat, and we've been friends for almost 30 years, which is amazing.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And we actually have the same lady that takes care of our nails. That's why we get to meet once a month.
Yeah, that's true. I see you more in Beverly Hills at Ripsy getting your nails done than otherwise.
Exactly. Well, we're thrilled that you're here, Christophe, and looking forward to sharing different things. When we were talking the other day and kind of getting started here, you had shared with me actually something I really didn't know about you. And that was kind of how the year and a half that you spent kind of doing no sales, and then your first sale. So would you give us the Reader's Digest version of that, and then maybe how that's transpired for you in the last?
Yeah, so basically I started when I just turned 18, got my license, and I went to work for John Douglas Company in Hancock Park. The first office I interviewed with, they did not want to hire me because the manager said, "What are your goals?" I said, "I want to make $1 million a year and drive a Rolls Royce." Well, she thought I was crazy, so she didn't hire me. So I went to the next office, which was Hancock Park. I was there. I was doing floor desk or uptime, whatever you want to call it, 2-3 times a week. I was doing 2 open houses every single week, sitting and waiting for business to come. And that first year I did 1 deal. I didn't even know how I got the deal. It was a $43,000 co-op. I made a $1,732 commission, which I was very happy with, although I spent probably $10,000 that first year marketing myself, but no income. And then the manager said to me, "Christophe, you need to produce some deals or you're out of the office." I had a 90-day kind of, come to Jesus, like make some deals, you're out. And then I discovered prospecting, which is so amazing. And you guys, you have no idea. I've known Neil for almost 30 years. How lucky you are to have a manager and a leader like Neil that still today. Look, I do prospects still, but Neil, he's got accountability. He's got these lists, like you got to sign up. He said to Abigail, "Sign up," and Abigail's like, "Yes," and I'm like, "Go Abigail, go Abigail." That's amazing because look, I should prospect an hour or 2 every single day, but there's always an excuse. But if your manager, your broker owner says you're on the schedule and you got to call and you don't, I think you're kind of, in trouble. So my first deal was, $33,000 commission, $43,000 condo. And then I started prospecting, and I was literally calling for sale by owners and expireds. And then I met Mike Ferry, and that was all it was, is calling. I had no past clients or sphere at 21 years old. So it was calling expireds and for sale by owners, which I did for maybe 15, 16 years. I went to every single Superstar Retreat, all of Neil's amazing parties at the Superstar Retreat, which we talked about last week. And I realized that you can't sit and wait for business to come to you. You got to get off your ass and make those calls every single day, practice your scripts, dialogue with all the top brokers and practice that stuff. And even I remember when I first started with Mike Ferry, I would see Karen Bernardi on the stage and all the big time brokers that back in the early 90s were making 1.2, 1.5 million a year in commissions. I made $1,700. But I signed up for coaching, even though the coaching back then was $1,000 a month. And I remember this, Neil, I never told you the story, but I went up to the thing at one of the breaks, the first Superstar Retreat, and I'm like, oh God, $1,000 a month. But in my mind, I think that was the second or third year I'd made $12,000. I thought, okay, in my mind, I will make 10 times return on investment. My only concern was, would my credit card go through? Because it was $1,000 deposit. And I was kind of nervous standing there like, well, and it went through and they signed me up. And I've been in coaching now for 30 some years. So coaching, prospecting, what Neil's teaching you every single day, it still works even today, 30 years later.
That's absolutely good stuff. Thank you, Christophe. That's quite amazing where you've come from, where we've all come from.
All of
I
us.
mean, people look at you and you know, you drive that big, beautiful car, you live in Beverly Hills, you work in Beverly Hills office, you take multi-million dollar listings, market them, you know, you're on every social media thing in the world. I was actually listening to a podcast that you were doing the other day, and how you just went out and there was the rich and famous. What was the story
Oh,
on that?
lifestyles of the rich and famous. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So you decided to do something and went out and found out it was available and bought it.
So for me, always, I mean, and you know this forever because you're always the same way. And Mike Ferry taught me this. Tom Ferry, my current coach, taught me this. Always be testing and trying. Look, I know I don't know everything. I only know this much. But I go to conferences and take time to spend, you know, thousands to get a ticket to go to an event, book a hotel room, and spend 3, 4, 5 days of my life to be at a conference. But I want value out of that. So when I hear an expert teach me about try this, try that, I always try it. So like typically, I remember that particular day, it was, I think 2006 or so, Gary Vaynerchuk, who I'm sure you know, he was talking at Mike Ferry Tom Ferry, and he said, Christophe, you're Mr. Beverly Hills, your lifestyles of the rich and famous. And Google had just purchased YouTube, you know, a couple of months before. He says, you guys need to be on social media and you need to be on YouTube. So I was not on anything on social media. I was not on YouTube. I was nowhere. I thought, why do I want to go on social media? I'm very private. I'm not going to share what I'm doing every day. But he said something that was so valuable that I still remember to this day. He said, from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m., you're working in your business. From 8 p.m. till midnight, you need to work on your business. So that really hit me. And then I thought, okay, so I remember I was on nothing, but there was at that time Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. There were Instagram didn't even exist. But so that afternoon at 5 o'clock when the conference was over, I went to the Best Buys in Palm Desert. I bought my first video camera and a tripod. My system was with me, so I went back to the room at 6 o'clock. I recorded my first video on the balcony. It's still on if you go to my YouTube channel, which I encourage you, follow me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, I'm everywhere, follow me. But I did my first video and I said, why the heck am I in the middle of Palm Desert on August 18th and 118 degrees? What for? And I talked about learning, growing, you know, helping to educate myself so I can build a better business and help my clients. So that was the beginning, but I'm always willing to test and try. And I remember for the first month or so after that particular event, every single night from 8, 9 o'clock, I would turn off the TV, I'd go to my bed with my laptop, and I'd go to Facebook and I'd log into Facebook. I'm like, okay, create an account, learn the platform. Next night would be LinkedIn, learn the platform. So I'm always learning, testing, and trying. Even today, I'm always doing videos many different ways, different cameras, different ways. I just keep trying and testing and see what works. I think you have to test and try and see what works for your particular base. You may have 200 followers and may have 3 million followers. I don't know, but you have to see what your base responds to. And I'm always looking at I'll create a great video that I think is amazing information. Nobody cares. I'll do a crazy video or a crazy photo of myself with my hair going wild. People love it. So look, I'm always kind of balancing, a little bit of business, a little bit of personal, but let's see what the audience likes. And it depends on the platform. So
Sure. So speaking of that and trying different things, I remember one time way back when we were talking to Jack Douglas, and he was so impressed with you. You had just learned the expired script. And we were in a management meeting. He actually brought you up in front of, 40, 50 managers in this meeting. And Jack says, and he goes through the whole script with you, and you knew it cold. You knew exactly what to say and how to say it. So at that time, we're talking 30 something years ago, 28
Yep.
years ago,
Yep.
You were learning scripts, you were learning the dialogues, you internalized everything. Your base was to be developed into a great salesperson.
yes.
And that's really where it started. So going back to that, was it testing? Was that what the thought process was? Or was it, look, you bought the idea, you saw the idea, you said, look, this feels like it works, it seems like it works, and you went out and worked expired listings in in the whole West Side, which is completely unique.
Yes. So back in those days, that's a really, really great question. There was no testing in those days. Today I do test, but in those days, blind faith. Didn't Mike Ferry talk about blind faith? He probably
All the
still
time.
does.
All the time.
Blind faith. And look, I was 21, 22 years old. I didn't have any business. I didn't have any clients.
And you didn't have any money.
I didn't know anybody. I was living in the way east side of town, like east of downtown, even though I was working in the west side of LA, so I didn't know anything. But the scripts made sense. And you're right, I did. And I remember when I first heard about the scripts, and I'm like, this is like a canned presentation. I mean, Mike used to talk about canned presentations. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to talk to someone and be like, blah, 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 blah. But I did what he said. I remember when I was brand new and I was the first Superstar retreat, Karen Bernardi, and I forget the other names of the other top, Gladys Blum and Lori Arnold. They were all the superstars on the panel. And I'm like, well, I'm brand new. I don't know nothing. I don't know anything. I had a credit card. I'm like, so I would invite Karen, let me take you to lunch at the restaurant at the Marriott. Let me take Gladys out to lunch. I would take them to lunch, and I'd say to Karen, who was one of the top producers then and now, I'm like, Karen, would you mind role playing with me a couple days a week? She said yes. So back in those days, I would role play with Karen Bernardi and Gladys Blum and all the top people at Mike Ferry that are still the top people at Mike Ferry. And I learned it. So like even today, I still use the 5-minute, the 10-minute, the 20-minute Mike Ferry script. So I go to a listing appointment. I don't care if it's, $500,000, $4 million, $10 million, or $80 million, or $100 million. I'll go, Neil, you have an amazing home, and I know you want to sell, but I'm curious. Do you absolutely have to sell your home?
Yeah,
right?
I do. I do have to sell.
Great, Neil. I'm so excited to hear that, and that's really wonderful because I'm here to help you. Are you willing to price your home to sell?
Well, we don't want to give it away.
Yeah, right. I hear that all the time, Neil. People do not want to give away their home, and I want to make the most money for you and for me because obviously my commission is tied into the sale price of your home, correct?
Exactly.
Exactly. So if you get a higher price, I get a higher price, we both win. So you're willing to price your home, but you don't want to give it away. So at what price are you willing to sell your home for?
I don't want to go anything below 5 million.
So you don't want to go below 5 million. I appreciate that. And I'm curious, how did you determine that particular price?
And then we would go down that street.
Right. And then I would say, Neil, you already said you like me. Do you want me to handle the sale for you?
Christophe, 30 years later, that's the script.
That's still the script.
Said, here's the question. So come on. I get it on a 500 or 800 or $1 million one house that you do that, but you do that on $12 million listings?
I swear to gosh, I do it all the time.
Really?
Now, I don't want to get into the marketing conversation.
Right,
You're never going to win in the marketing conversation. So that is the basic script. And I remember my first $30 million listing, which was in 2007. It was exactly that script. It was literally exactly that script. And I kind of role play. I said, do you absolutely have to sell the home? Yes, we're going to be moving out of the country in August. I said, great. I said, you willing to price the home to sell? He says, well, what do you want to list it for? I said, it's worth, and he said, how much is the house worth? I said, it's worth 22 to 23 million. He says, how much you want to list it for? I said, 26.5 million. This is 13 years ago. He says, oh, no, I don't want to list for that price. I want to list it for 30 million. I said, okay. If that's the case, are you willing to give me a 1-year listing agreement? He says, yes, that's fine. I said, perfect. I said, if I sell your house in the next 30 to 60 days, is that okay with you? Again, Mike Ferry, right? He says, well, no, this was October. He says, no, that's not going to work because we're not moving till July. So it was October, November, December, 7 months. So I said, that's kind of why he wanted the higher price. And he says, what's your commission? And so I had prepared for this presentation. My highest price listing prior to that was 5 million. When he called me the day before on Sunday at 8:30 in the morning, I was at the office. I picked up the office phone at 8:30 on a Sunday, and it was the wife calling saying, oh, we want to talk to you about listing our house. We set an appointment for Monday. I called up Gabrielle, who you know, and I said, Gabrielle, I got this call from Steve and Robin. They want to sell their house. I said, I'm not going to be coming home till late tonight. I spent 8 hours preparing for that presentation. He was a corporate executive. He was a businessman. So I spent 8 hours I was mentally prepared, emotionally prepared, but I wanted a proper presentation. And I spent 8 hours putting this amazing presentation together. But I went to the appointment. It was him and I sitting in the entryway of the house on a little table in this huge 15,000 square foot home. And I literally went through those questions, and he said, yes, yes, yes. And then when it came to commission, and I'd worked the commission in my mind for probably 30 minutes, because, Mike had said at the time, well, ask for 6. In those days, I was asking for 7. But, I knew I couldn't ask for 7 for a $30 million listing. There'd never been a listing for 30 million in that neighborhood. So I thought I'm going to have the guts and the balls to ask for 6. I asked for 6. And he's like, and in my mind, I thought I can go down from 6 to 5.75, 5.5, right? I can adjust it. He says to me, Christophe, I'm only paying you $1 million to sell this house. I said, Steve, you got it. So I scratched, and I had the pre-typed up listing agreement. I scratched out the 6%. I wrote in $1 million. That's what he said. That's what I wrote down. So literally, it was December, almost a year plus later, we sold the house for $22.5 million. No, $23.5 million. And guess what? He paid us $1 million, which ended up being like 5.35% commission. And Jade Mills represented the buyer. You know Jade, Neil. And so, look, he said he'd only pay me $1 million. I'd never heard of $1 million commission. And like, do you guys realize you can write in an amount? And even though the price sold for what I said, I still got paid the $1 million because that's what he said. And I wrote in what he said. So again, it's all scripts and dialogues. It was internalized. I believed in it, and I did the embedded commands and do you absolutely have to, all that, body language.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Because we're, on a 500,000, on an 800,000, we do scripts and dialogues and the other stuff. How do you do that? So you're saying that's what you do on all of your listing presentations. So good for you. Congratulations.
I'm going to one today at 3 o'clock, and it's an expired, and they're at 27 million current price. I think it's worth 22, 23 million. And I will be using that exact same dialogue. Trust me.
That's great.
And and this will be through it's not even, I have no presentation in paper. I have nothing. I know the house I've shown the house, and he knows I've shown the house. So I'm just going to go there. I'm going to meet him. I've never met him face to face. And I'm going to be like, oh, do you absolutely, I'm going to basically go through that exact presentation, but it's not going to be like face to face on a table. It's going to be as I'm walking through the house, as he's showing me around a house I've already seen and shown 4 times. Oh, do you absolutely have to sell your home? So I'm going to go through that exact same script. If that doesn't work, then I can go into all the marketing and all the, all the videos and all the this and that.
Got it. Good stuff. Okay, so let's shift gears slightly. Let's go back again still. Where did the business come from for you? I mean, you door knock houses in Beverly Hills?
So back in the beginning, I never really door knocked. I did door knock way back in the old Mike Ferry days, but it was all on the phone. I mean, I was literally doing Mike's rule of 3 hours of prospecting. So I get to the office at 6:30 in the morning. I would, do my admin in the morning, and then from 8 to 9, I'd prospect for 50 minutes. I'd take a 10-minute break. 9 to 10, 50 minutes, 10-minute break. 10 to 11, 50 minutes, 10-minute break. So I built my entire business. It took me 16 years of just calling 3 hours a day diligently over and over again. I called the same expired. I remember one of my first listings, I called that expired maybe 17 times. And Mike did say in the day, don't leave messages. I didn't like that. I left messages. And the woman called me. She's like, oh, well, she called me. Someone talked to you about our listing expired. I said, well, why'd you call me? She said, well, you left me like 15, 16 messages. And I figured if you were that diligent in calling us and leaving messages, you'd be diligent at following up with a buyer. And I said to her on the phone, I said, you know what, you're right. If a buyer comes in my way for your property, I'm like a bulldog. I'm going to latch on them. I'm never going to let go until they buy your house. I set the appointment. I took the listing, and that was a $232,000 property I sold back, 25 years ago. I've done 9 deals with that family in 22 years. So
Wow.
most of my business today, I don't have to do that today, thank God, but I would say I have clients today of 25, 27, 28 years that are 8, 9, 10 times past clients that all came from a for sale by owner, an expired listing. So that was the basis of building my business way back when.
Got it. So how big do you think your database is right now?
I have about 600 past clients that have sold and closed. I think we have about 3,800 in my email database,
Okay.
and probably 6,000 in my top producer. So we have a lot of people, but there's only certain ones that I call all the time, but it's a big database. Size doesn't matter. It's the quality of who's in there.
Quality of who's in there. Absolutely. Absolutely. And how often do you work that today? I mean, business is slightly different today for you. Is it?
It hasn't changed that much. My number one priority now, aside from all the marketing, all the videos, all the social media, which we do every day, I need to be talking to 5 to 10 past clients in Sphere every single day. Now, the issue is nowadays, I have the time to do it, so there's no excuse. Number two, most people are home, so my call ratio is probably 42, 45% of people that I can actually talk to on the phone. And when you're talking to these people, my average call now is between 20 to 40 minutes.
Wow.
So like, because when you're touching base with someone, then you talk about this, and you talk about that, and you talk about this, and you don't want to cut them off. And I am not asking for business. I'm simply checking in. How are you? How's the family? What's going on? And of course, they're going to say, how's the real estate market? What's going on? And then I have my scripts and dialogues that I've been practicing about what's going on today at this minute. And there's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of worry from consumers because they're reading the headlines in the newspaper, or they pop up on Facebook and see, oh, worst jobless rate since the Depression. Well, yeah, that's all kind of true, but get away from the headlines, and I give them the real data. And I've done probably almost a video every day or two about what's really going on behind the headlines. And it's not the truth. Even yesterday, I posted another video that as of yesterday, this is nationwide, we hit the peak of the highest prices in the history of the United States. Highest
Wow.
prices in history, lowest interest rates in history, and the lowest inventory. Yes, we've all been bloody locked down for 2 months, but already that's kind of starting to change. We can now, in LA, as you know, we can start showing occupied properties as of last week or 2 weeks ago. So, as that pause button is being lifted slow, it's not just like let go and everyone's just running out, but as that pause button is being lifted, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, the confidence in the market is there. People want to take advantage of it. There are people and buyers out there that want to buy, and I said, oh, you want a COVID price, right? Like buyers, like past clients, like, oh, I'll buy that house again for 20% less. I said, oh, you want a COVID price? Well, yes, I just watched the news for an hour and I saw the headlines and the market's crashing. He said, well, I appreciate what you're saying. However, that's really not the case. Let me send you these 2 videos from the top experts of what's really going on. And either they're going to do something or they're not. So, but that's the reality. So people have their perceptions. I need to educate them on what the reality actually is.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. So during this whole COVID thing, did you shift gears at all? Were there any challenges that you've overcome? Were any decisions made a couple months ago that you wanted to accomplish something by the end of it?
Yes, so I did make some decisions. So as soon as prior to lockdown, we kind of locked ourselves down a week before. Second thing, when lockdown actually occurred, I thought, okay, I basically for I think 4 or 5 weeks, I stopped any property marketing. I just literally stopped that. I'm like, this is not things were just getting shut down. People were like freaking out. I'm like, I am not going to go out there and be promoting my, $20 million listing or whatever. That was not the time and place. So I did shift my gears a little bit, simply where I'm still posting now 4 to 5 times a day on all my platforms. But primarily there's a beautiful flower, a garden post, sharing the gratitude of life. And I share a great quote in the morning, a great quote in the evening. Now, starting about 3-4 weeks ago, I did start sharing properties again because I thought it was the right time. So yeah, of course, you have to constantly adapt and pivot yourself. But just think of yourself like on a pivot. You got to pivot this way, pivot that way. And I've said this for 30 some years. You have to be a chameleon in your business. Chameleons change their color based on their environment. Well, the environment today is the weirdest environment I've ever been in 32 years. So change your colors. Don't be your typical usual self. What are your clients feeling? What are your friends feeling? What are your family feeling? Speak the story and speak the story for yourself to them based on what's important to them. I think that's so important to constantly shift, adapt, and grow based on the marketplace. And I want to find a note real quick that everyone's like, "Oh, you're Mr. Luxury and all this." Yes, I've always been luxury, but I've done a couple of video conferences like this the last couple of days, and I said we have to change the verbiage. I'm no longer. I mean, look, our company's global luxury. That I can't change, but I'm no longer really talking about luxury and uh, billionaires and all. I mean, this is not the time to just. The people have no. We have got, how many? 33 million people in America that have no jobs. 15%. So this is not the time. And you guys who know me, I like to post parties and diamonds and bling and fancy cars and mansions, but it's not the time. So the new luxury for me is high quality. Look, a luxury home can be a very luxurious home, but I'm not going to say it's a luxurious home. I say it's a high quality home. Another one is good value. I think today when money may be tight for some or people don't have jobs and they're scraping their pennies to buy food for their family, they want a good value. Next thing is people have always wanted the best neighborhoods, but people buy what they can afford. But safety and security, a neighborhood where they can feel comfortable. Let's face it, people have been locked up in their home for 9 weeks, and a lot of people think, oh, I don't want to live here, or I do want to live here, or I want to live in a better neighborhood, but they want the quality of the neighborhood. And then lastly, they want an unbeatable experience. Because let's face it, even me, I mean, for so many years, we bought our home 21 years ago, and I loved it, and I worked so hard to buy that, and it cost a lot of money, and we spent, a year renovating the house. But then the last 15 years, I've been so busy working every day to make money and travel and buy blingy jewelry and buy expensive clothes. But I didn't even have the time. I mean, I would go into my house and then I'd say to my wife, I'd say, you know what? I have not been in the garden for like a month. I didn't even go outside because I come home, I leave at 6 o'clock, come home at 6 or 7, go to a party, go to bed at midnight, 3-4 days a week. I don't have time to even go to my garden. So now I've realized that I've got to enjoy and be grateful for what I have and enjoy those experiences. So even Sunday, we're in the garden. It was 7:30 at night, and it was just quiet. And the guy was like, "Let's go in the garden." We were out there for like 20 minutes, and I heard and saw 7 different birds, heard the singing, looked at the flowers. So I think appreciation for that and enjoying the experiences of the home you have. Or if you don't like what you have, then you help figure out, if you call your clients enough, oh, is this your dream home? Are you enjoying your experience at home the last 9 weeks? Yeah, it's okay, but I really need another bedroom because my 3 kids are driving me crazy and I need an office. Well, tie into that and like, oh, well, what does that look like for you? Where would that be? Shall we get you started in that process? So I think, so those are the 4 things I've shifted from the luxury talk to those 4 points.
Yeah, very versatile. And that's what you have to be in this marketplace.
Exactly.
You have to be versatile,
Exactly.
whether your word is adapt, versatile, pivot, doesn't matter. You got to do that.
Exactly.
Right? Exactly. Good job. Good job. So that kind of leads into a little bit of what would you do business wise? What approach are you going to take, let's say, or would you recommend that some of us take, over as we start to come out of the cocoon and charge to the end of the year? Because as we talked the other day, clearly you plan on hitting your goals this year and achieving the things that you wanted to do, even though you were in a cocoon for, let's say, a couple of months.
Yes. So I think, first of all, you're already all on the right track because you're all prospecting every day. So that's number one. If I could prospect 3 hours a day, I would love that. But I'm typically being interviewed once or twice a day. So that's an hour or 2 right there. And then I'm doing my own interviews, my own media and podcasts. And then I'm following up with past clients, which is 20 to 40 minutes a call. So there's the whole day. The whole day is just like that. So keep doing what you're doing with the prospecting. I think as the market has changed, if you have cash and liquidity, a lot of brokers, I believe, are contracting right now and not spending the money because they're fearful or they're worried. if you've got the money, this is the time to expand, to be top of mind in front of your consumers. But you don't need to spend a lot of money. You can do, you can do a lot of this marketing just simply socially on Facebook, on videos, all the time, and it's free. You don't need to spend the Google ads or the Facebook ads or the Instagram ads or the postcard. I have not done postcards or mailers in 5 or 6 years because I think, to me, that kind of died, unless you're doing a specific farm that you've been doing forever, or you want to start a farm that you're going to keep on forever, or you're doing it 2-3 times a month consistently over and over. It's consistency. Whether you're calling consistently or doing social media consistently, or it's all about consistency. And Neil, you and I go back to, Mike back in the day. It's always about consistency, keeping it up all the time, even when you don't want to. Right? So you have to, spend more money now, be more consistent, make more calls, and but don't make the calls or contact people to get something. Contact them to see how you can help them.
It's great advice. Absolutely. Christophe, are you open for a couple questions right now?
Of course, I'm always open.
Excellent. So, questions for Christophe. See things that he might be able to help you with, or answers, or things that we didn't cover.
I'm looking for my friends, because I have so many friends in your offices. We have so many new faces. So I'm kind of looking through to see who I know, because I remember all the old days and all the fun we used to have at your parties. And
yeah.
Neil, I have a question.
Sure. Go ahead, Karen.
So I do love watching Gary Vee as well. And he mentioned that, the social media aspect. So I really haven't done much with that. Have you seen an impact on your business over the years of you just feeding into that venue?
Absolutely, Karen. So when Gary Vee told me to meet, I was at lunch with him, and at the afternoon session, he said to me, in front of the audience, you're Beverly Hills and all that, do this. So I did that, and I have seen an impact. So I started my first video that afternoon, and Tom Ferry was my coach at the time. So I was doing video after video after video, and it was about 4 years. I'm telling you, 4 years into doing the videos. And I'd be coaching with Tom every week, and I'm like, Tom, I don't want to do something unless I can monetize it. Meaning, I want to make money from that particular project. So I'd say to Tom, I've been doing videos for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I said, I have not monetized. He said, Christophe, keep doing what you're doing. It's going to happen. Just keep doing it. And long and short of that story, maybe a month or so after that last conversation, I got a random phone call at the office during the day. I said, this woman wants to talk to you. Our first initial call was a 45-minute call. I will say, how'd you find out about me? I saw your videos. I said, great. Which videos? I saw your driving tour of Stone Canyon, and I like that because you were very honest. I said, really? How so? It was a part of Bel Air, which is 5 minutes from Beverly Hills, and it's a canyon. And I said, if you're a sun lover, it may not be the right place for you, because the sun will rise 3-4 hours later in the morning and will set 3-4 hours earlier in the afternoon. And she said, you were honest. I said, how so? She said, well, I was almost going to buy a $10 million house on that street, but we went there for inspections at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There was no sun at the pool. So she was not going to buy a house for $10 million without sun at the pool at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Then she saw my helicopter tour video. That was my first production video back in 2007 or 8. She said, well, if you'd spend that much money on a helicopter tour of the houses in LA, you spend money to market my home. So long and short of it, she wanted to meet me with her husband, which I had to meet them at 8:30 at night on a Monday to be interviewed to be their buyer's agent. And I did, and I went through the actual, I kid you not, Neil, the actual Mike Ferry script for a buyer. And I said, do you want me to represent you in the purchase and sale of your property? And the husband, he's one of the biggest lawyers in the country. He's a partner in one of the biggest real estate law firms in the country. He says, Christophe, he's a very tough voice, says, my wife decided to hire you the first time she called you on the phone. And I kind of put my notebook down. I had an 8.5 by 14 yellow notepad, because he's a lawyer, right? Yellow. And I said, do you mind, Mr. So-and-so, if I take notes? He says, sure. So I put my notepad down. I said, then, Mr. So-and-so, I said, why am I here if your wife already decided to hire me? I just wanted to meet you in person and see what you're like. Anyways, that was done. I showed her 3 houses. She bought a house for over $10 million. Took us a month and a half to negotiate the deal, but we closed on that deal. And then I sold her house for $5 million. Their friend bought for 4.6 million. The secretary sold her condo for 475, and then bought a house for 1.6. So within 90 days after that call where I said, oh, I have not monetized this, we did $26 million in deals from one phone call from 2 videos. So Miriam, was it Miriam? I forget who asked.
Oh, it was Karen.
Karen, keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. You never know when you're going to get that magic phone call.
That's
Every day,
Thank
I
you.
still do affirmations every single day. And one of the things I say every day, I said, I expect miracles and magic and wonder in my life each and every day. And I can't wait for that incredible seller to call me with 100% equity that will follow my advice, will do what I say, will trust me, respect me, and are rich and fun and I can be friends with. You remember Neil back in the 90s? Mike said, you have to decide who's your perfect client. That was one of his first things I learned from Mike. And then you had to write down who is your perfect client. That is my perfect client. I have done that since 9 years ago. So that is so embedded in my mind. That's my perfect client. So when I meet somebody, if they're not 8 or 9 of those 10 things, then I don't do business with them. So
Interesting.
Aaron, just keep doing it. Just keep, the basics are the basics. They do not change. I don't care good markets or bad markets. Consistency, keep doing the same thing. Positive attitude, doing affirmations, role playing, script practicing, and then when you're done with the day, let it all go. Focus on your family and your life and enjoying the good things and being grateful. Recharge yourself to go back to the battlefield the next morning.
I love it. I love it. And I love your humility. Awesome. Other questions? Other questions for Christophe?
I have a question.
Sure. Go ahead.
So when you first got your first luxury home, did you have to have a fancy car?
It's a good question. I've always had nice cards, and I probably had 25 different cards in my 32 years in business. I'm always changing. A card, I think a nice